Hi there, I'm Scott Lowe with ActualTech Media, and we are at ZertoCon 2019, where we are talking with Ziv Kedem, the CEO of Zerto. Ziv, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Scott.
So, IT resilience is really the mantra that Zerto is pushing really hard for, with good reason. Can you tell us basically how Zerto defines IT resilience?
Well, we view IT resilience as the ability for businesses to withstand change, right? So you have many types of changes. Some are good changes, some are bad changes, right? So it could be bad changes, like you have a hurricane that takes out the data center, but it could be a good change, as in you just wanted to upgrade or deploy a new application, you want to move something to the cloud, but all these things are creating their own risks. And if you can fail if these risks can make you fail, that's a problem,
Mhm.
and then you're not resilient. If you can take these risks and when you fail, it doesn't have an impact to your users, right? And this is both your external users, but also your internal users, right? If they can continue and work pretty much seamlessly with all of this being handled in the background, that is a resilient IT.
And that's why it's so important for businesses because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know when the next disaster is going to strike, and they need to be able to be flexible when it comes to new business plans. So IT resilience is a pretty key thing across the spectrum.
Yeah, and it's even more important today because they're going through this massive transformation. Every business is transforming. You can call it digital transformation, business transformation, IT transformation, but it's all in a state of change, and that change has a lot of moving parts, and these moving parts can cause failures. So if you are really vulnerable to these failures, then you will do everything more slowly. You may actually even sustain some downtime or data loss, which today is really unacceptable with user expectations that people have today. But if you'll just be slower, then at the end of the day, that's a big impediment to the business, and that can actually help you, not help, but prevent you from remaining competitive and really outpacing your competition, which is what every business needs to do today.
How does Zerto fit into the IT resilience equation?
So Zerto provides software that actually lets you cover the different use cases that people use today for IT resilience, right? So one of them is that ability to resume from a disaster in another location. So if you lose your data center or parts of your data center, then you can resume that elsewhere. It also takes the backup use case of really going back in time. So either a short time, if you just had an application failure, or in some cases a malicious application failure by a hacker, and now everything is encrypted, so you can go back in time before it happened. And also the ability to go back in time for many years if you actually usually get that call from compliance saying we need that copy as of 5 years ago because of some litigation that is going on. So we also take care of the use case of moving your applications data across data centers, across clouds. So we're really taking care of several of the use cases that today can make IT fail and letting you not fail in this thing.
So the strategy and what IT resilience is very clear, but sometimes things can feel overwhelming. Like we have to, if we understand that what if the end looks like, it's easier to get started, but there's still a lot of moving pieces. So if I'm an executive looking for an IT resilience strategy, where do I start?
So I think the first thing is really understanding what are your needs, understanding where things are coming for, what service levels you have for your different applications. And it always sounds easy, but it's not that easy because when you ask all the business units what are their needs for their applications, they're always going to be very high. And then when you go and tell them the price, then they're not. It's not always fundable. So you have to actually make the right decision. You have to prioritize. You have to know what are your objectives. You have to know how you plan to test these objectives. Because if you just state these objectives and set up software, most likely you would have made a mistake there. And as much as we make our software simple and try to help users avoid these mistakes, you have to understand if you don't know what your SLAs are, your service levels, you will never
Right.
not get to them. And if you don't test, you will not know that you achieve them, right? So really defining, right? We've seen some huge deployments that started with a few months of people just doing very careful planning without anyone even touching the keyboard outside of the Microsoft Office suite, and and these were the fastest deployments actually because
Right.
they had the right planning, they knew what they want to do, they knew what business goals they want to achieve, and then they had to set it up and test it, but they already knew what they're doing, right? So I would say plan first and then do later.
Yeah, what's the phrase? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Is that the phrase? I think.
That is sometimes
Yeah.
right, or like My CIO always tells me that he believes in measuring 10 times and cutting once.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with him more. I have a background as a CIO, and it's always um, a little bit nerve-wracking when you have something new if you haven't dotted all your I's and crossed your T's.
Yeah. And,
So if you think about Zerto's customer base, what are some good examples of what kinds of business outcomes some Zerto customers have achieved, especially through some of their IT resilience strategies, but with Zerto in general?
yeah, so we've seen customers doing many things with Zerto, right? The first obvious thing is reduce the risk to their business, right? So reduce the risk of downtime, reduce the risk of data loss, and these things have huge repercussions when they happen, right? So that's a big risk. And most enterprises don't even realize how unprotected they are until you ask them, okay, if you test once a year, how much did your environment change during that year?
Right.
And how successful even were these tests, right? Because they don't pass in flying colors even after months of preparation, right? So we believe if you're if you want to reduce the risk of something happening unexpectedly, you pretty much also have to be able to test it unexpectedly. So that's one thing, right? The other thing is the ability to move workloads around. We see a lot of enterprises that made, for example, acquisitions or just needed to move their data centers or they want to move something to the cloud. And it sounds easy, but it's not because they cannot afford the downtime. You can turn everything down, move, and then turn it back on. So it's right. So moving workloads around data centers and cloud, that's a great way that we help our customers. And then last but not least, enterprises have a cloud journey. They usually have these multi-year cloud goals, but it's very difficult to get them. So we can help them accelerate in their cloud journey, both in providing new use cases, how you can use the cloud for disaster recovery, for backup, for data protection, which are really great first steps to get there and really can help them already get some of their cloud goals and use things that just make sense to do. As well as when they have these workloads that they want to move to the clouds, and we take care of moving natively into every cloud and all of this migration and mobility, right? That really helps them. So reducing the risk, moving workloads around, and accelerating the cloud journey. These I would say are the three major topics where we help our customers.
Very good. One last question. So I've been watching Zerto pretty much since the beginning, 2009, 2010, right? So,
Right.
Tech Field Day, watched all that stuff because I've participated in lots of those. How gratifying is it to see this week? This your biggest ever user conference. It's got to be a lot of pride in that.
There is a lot of pride. Even
A
this
lot of
time
work.
I did something which I've not done before, right? And I actually flew my father over from Israel just so that he can see
Yeah,
it, right? So that's
I saw that in the keynote. That was really nice to see. A nice touch.
yeah, and he was all excited. I mean,
He's probably pretty proud, isn't he?
yeah, and he's an infrastructure guy. I mean, he ran the operations of EMC Israel, right? So he was managing all of that, right? So he knows the space,
He gets it.
and he definitely did some brushing up on the Zerto things before coming. But yeah, for me, I'm proud. I'm proud of the company. I love the company. I love what we achieve. I love the interaction with the customers. Love the interaction with the partners. And I was glad that I was able to let him share some of that excitement because he always hears about it from myself, from my brother Oded, who's the
Yeah.
co-founder and chief architect. But seeing it in firsthand is very different, right? So yeah, I really feel proud of what we did, but I still think that this is just one of the first steps, right? I mean, I know that we grew to be big, but I think that there is a lot of room to grow, and it only depends on us.
Well, congratulations on the success. I know that it's a hard. You guys have been a success story in what can be a hard fought battle sometimes.
It is always everything is a hard fought battle,
It
right?
is.
When you go and zoom out and look at the big picture, it always looks like a clean thing,
Yeah.
but it's a battle every day. But that's what I do. That's what I love. That's what gets me out of bed every morning.
One
Is loving what I do here.
One of the phrases I like is it took me 10 years to become an overnight success.
It
But
does.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, you guys have done a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.